Good evening and welcome to the Pompey Politics Podcast, the podcast where we explore matters political of an international, national, and local importance and discuss them in a calm, reasoned, and measured way to get to the heart of the matter. I'm Ian Tiny Morris.
And I'm Simon Sansbury. Good evening, Ian, and good evening to our sweltering audience. Hope they're suffering. Hope they're surviving okay through the heat. And those of you that were up late last night. Today we're going to look at something rather local. So a bit of a change from some of the national stuff that we've covered recently. So closing in early July, Havant Borough Council held a public consultation into whether Hayling Island and Emsworth should have their own parish council. So in the face of the upcoming local government reorganisation, seeing Havant Borough Council merged with other merged into a unitary authority covering Portsmouth, Havant, Fareham, Gosport and Waterlooville, we're going to ask some people that have got some interest in that debate. What is a parish council? What powers does it have? How is it formed? How does it work? And I guess, what does it cost? So in essence, is more democracy less democracy, or is more democracy more democracy? So joining us today, we've got our guests of Councillor Mark Coates, Councillor Will Farrow, and we've got David Gainsford. So good evening and welcome to you all. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening.
And just for those of you watching at home, David is joining us without a camera, so do not adjust your sets. We have artfully placed. He's been good enough to provide us with a still image that we can use to represent him, and we'll go from there. But while I'm there, please do remember to show us your love by giving us a like, follow, subscribe, give us some comments, enter into the conversation, into the chat. We'd love to hear what you've got to say. But Ian, you want to tee us up for the first question?
Yeah. Let's welcome everybody. And David, if I can start with you, if you'd introduce yourself and what's your interest in the whole parish council angle?
Certainly. Good evening to yourself, gentlemen, and the councillors, and all the people that are listening. I'm a Hayling Island resident. I've not lived on the island for long. I've been here approximately 7 to 9 months, and I moved into a property, and then I found out about this parish council, etc. And it's like between phase 1 and 2. I mean, and I just thought, let's find out about it. Let's just Google it. Let's research it. Let's find all about it.
So would it be fair to describe you as an interested and engaged resident, David?
Yes, definitely interested and definitely engaged.
Marvellous. So Wilf, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. I'm Will Farrow. I'm a councillor in Havant Borough Council, and I'm also a member of the committee of HIRA, Hayling Island Residents Association. So I used to be fairly against a parish council when we had Havant so close, but LGR has turned it all on its head now, and with it moving off into a much bigger, more remote unitary council, I thought it was the right thing for Hayling. We've got a very distinct unit, sort of people here with a very good reason to have a parish council. So we started the petition, and I was the technician, if you like, that was able to make that work for HIRA. So we ran a petition, and we got the process started to make it happen.
Brilliant. Thank you, Wilf. And an old friend of the podcast, Mark, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Councillor Mark Coates from Hayling. And I've been interested in the parish council for years, more than a decade, I think. But more recently, I think I've become more and more neutral in terms of my councillor hat on the way I present this idea to the electorate and to the people who would have to pay the precept, because there are different possible outcomes. It's almost like it's a good subject for a debate, gentlemen, or for opening it up with some questions. You get good and bad, you really do, and I think that it will be daft as a councillor not to sit in the middle. On a personal level, I have to confess that I'm ever the optimist. I think I'm leaning into it. But there are pitfalls, and there is not, and there's near perfection. There's a real range. There's a real mixed ability group, I have to say, as a teacher.
Brilliant. Thank you,
Okay.
Mark. Whoever thought that in this day and age we could discuss a political topic with balance and nuance to try and work out whether it's not just black and white. Let's see how far we get. Simon.
Yeah, let's see if we can put that to the test. So, so what is a parish council? Because lots of people won't understand what one is, and what does it do? Anyone want to go first? You kind of led to it a bit there, Will, for my kind of dropping you in by asking you to expand on that a bit, or does anyone else want to come in first on that one?
Well, it's hyper-local services, really. The only thing that parish councils have to do is allotments. If there are statutory allotments that have to be provided by local councils, and if they exist, parish councils have to run them. But there are a whole lot more local things. We don't run transport, we don't run the big social services or education or anything. It's the very local things that people care about locally, generally cheap to run, often can be run by volunteers, which is quite a big attraction. On Hayling, we've got an awful lot of older people who've retired and maybe would be prepared to be involved on a voluntary basis as well. So I believe it's things like community centres, open spaces, the sorts of things that remote councils just always do badly because they don't know the local area.
Okay.
Can I add to that, if you don't mind, gentlemen,
Yeah, sure,
please?
go for it. Thank you.
Yeah, totally agree with Wilf. Brilliant. It is a first tier of local government. It does have a small number of statutory powers, but many discretionary powers.
Okay,
It can own assets, it can maintain open spaces, it can run allotments, as he said, it can comment on planning application, award grants, and represent local opinions. It cannot decide planning applications, control highways, education, social care, or most of the services that people actually associate with a principal council. But one thing, if I may, one thing that Havant Council did acknowledge in phase one was that many of the residents misunderstood what a parish council can actually do.
Okay, that's a very, very key point. Thank you for that, David. Mark, did you have anything to add on there as to what a parish council can and can't do?
Yeah, and it's an important topic. Exactly as David said, we've got a lot of people that are ignoring or choosing to ignore. We've got even more that maybe just haven't been able to get along to a lot of the consultation events that we've had at Emsworth and Hayling, and even more who probably have learned quite a lot and want to know more. I mean, as councillors, we held additional sessions. I mean, people are busy. Some people are kind of happy to go along with the majority, but I don't feel, I think David's right. I think there is a void of really understanding what it's about. So, for example, lots and lots of people saying online, oh, it's just like jobs for the boys. The councillors who are going to get voted out during LGR, they got somewhere to go then, feather in their own nest. Parish councillors get paid nothing, zero, zilch, nothing at all. So there's a lot of false information going around, and some people don't want to correct that. I think that it's a piece of string question. How active do you want to be? And of course, the thing is that's tied directly to the amount that you're paying as a precept. So I was looking at and David came along to the meeting we held with David Crichton, who's the chair at Newlands and has been part of that parish council since its inception. He gave us a list of all of the Winchester parish councils, and it went from £0, like literally nothing at all, through like £20, etc., up to I think a couple of £100, David, I think might have been the most expensive.
Approximately.
Range. Yeah, there's a real range, and that depends on the ambition of the council. And this is why I think it's quite reasonable to talk about it and open it up, or to have a debate about it like we will on Wednesday, because it's not one size fits all. We don't know exactly how it's going to look. And if you've got very ambitious people who want to take lots of things on, some of those might be mistakes, some of them might be really useful. I'll give some good examples later, because I'm pretty sure David will give us some bad examples where it's all gone wrong. And it is a piece of string question. How much do you want to take on? Do you want to take on the toilets, the play parks, the town market? Do you want to, create an art gallery in a museum, or do you just want to keep quite quiet and maybe just have allotments? And we don't actually have to have the allotment on Hayling, because it's actually owned by Portsmouth Diocese that's sitting on their land. So it's an interesting question that I'm afraid I'll have to stay vague until we see what emerges.
No, that's okay. I mean, just trying to kind of think of a bit of a local example. Those who've been around long enough over on Portsmouth, there was Southsea Town Council, which kind of operates in a sense, which had very limited powers about provision of certain services or services that the kind of the next level up kind of council, which in that case was Portsmouth Unitary Council, was able to kind of pass down to control of some buildings and those services, but not having kind of, like you say, planning control, roads and kind of things like that. But interestingly, in that example, after about 10 years, it was abolished. So is this a popular thing? Is this happening kind of lots of places, or is the interest in this being driven by LGR, by the local government reorganisation, do you think?
I'm happy to go first with that one. Sure, and say, just to reverse the order and just say, yes, it absolutely is. I think there's a concern amongst the groups of people that are often the stewards of the island, the Hayling Island Residents Association being one, who do an awful lot of work and ended up forcing a Rule 6 intervention in terms of the a planning application that's ongoing at the moment. If they'd had a parish council, they'd have been a statutory consultee, and that's something that I think they value. But when we know that the OECD in 2018 produced this paper, which is when the Conservatives started doing all the LGR work and forming unitary, saying that if we haven't got a lot of big cities, if you start forming these unitary authorities and upping the productivity of all these cities across the UK, you'll get between 34 and 55 billion pounds more a year. But the initial stage investment is huge. It's going to cost a lot of money. I think that there'll be some disorganisation. There's bound to be, as everything gets rethreaded. And there won't be a lot of money. Hayling and Emsworth are quite small. They're at the back of the queue already in Havant, and Havant's a pretty small borough, and there'll be even more at the back of the queue. Invisible, I think, when it comes to a unitary. And if you want to fix a broken swing or something quickly, you have a parish council. All the little things that all these great political theorists like Sir Anthony Crosland mentioned, make a real difference to people's lives on a daily basis as they walk around the town. If you want to manage those properly, if you want to keep things prim and proper, you have a parish council, the lowest level of political governance.
And are they still, and I'm sorry, this is a supplementary, but are they still founded, do councillors still sit in political groupings, or are they not in these sorts of setups?
So that's an open question. That's an open one.
There is a possible change. Yeah, and that's one of the ones, if we use and I think it's appropriate to use Hayling as a microcosm of that. We've got East and West wards at the moment. You've got 6 councillors out of 36. Another reason why LGR has forced the idea. We won't have 6 out of 36. We'd have about 4 out of 116. Significant decrease in the proportional representation of those people. Those per resident representation. And you have to make a decision. Do you go as East and West Hayling or just Hayling? And the consultation we've just done says you have Hayling as one whole parish council. You don't divide it. But it has, of course, as you may know, 18,000 residents, but lots of different areas. We've got rural, and we've got semi-urban, I suppose, and we've got the seafront. I mean, it's really diverse in terms of its character.
Yeah, sorry, I was asking more about whether councillors sitting on a parish council are grouped into political parties in the, for example, in the in other. Sorry.
Yeah, can be. I mean, I think ideally you'd want people to stand as independents. You'd encourage that, but I think they can be. I don't know. I think Wilf knows possibly a little more on this one.
Well, all the advice we've had from Newlands, from Horndean, from Rolders Castle, and further afield is, if you can keep party politics out of it, things work an awful lot better, because people start to think about Hayling's benefit, not their own local party benefit. So that's the biggest single piece of advice we had from David Crichton when he came to the clinic we ran, Mark, which you organised. Yes. Thank you. So if we can avoid it, I think it would be a magnificent step forward. That's obviously tricky if you have to have an election. Elections are expensive for the council, but they're even more expensive for the individuals that have to run in them. If you want to put leaflets around or whatever, it costs money. So somebody's got to pay, and political parties are good at raising funds. So that's the danger. But if we can avoid it, I think it's huge benefits.
Okay.
Yeah, best practice is independent, definitely.
Okay, so before I throw to Ian, just wanted to give David, was there anything you wanted to contribute, anything more you wanted to add to those points?
Absolutely, if I may. I think the mainstream general politics should be totally and utterly disregarded when you come to a parish council or a parish councillor. I think they should all stand at independence, personally, because otherwise you're just going to open a can of worms every single time. It's going to be a nightmare, and I think it's got to be a single person, man or lady. Bosh, I'm a parish councillor. I'm here for the parish. I'm here for the residents. It's got to be independent. Get rid of all that central garbage.
Centralised garbage. Yes. So yeah, we'll steer clear of the bin references and parties raising significant funds. We'll leave that to one side because we're focused locally. So we've spoken about parish councils, and you referenced, Mark, there that it's been kind of floating in the ether for about 10 years. So practically, how is one formed, and where are we in that process for Hayling Island and Emsworth? And can I ask that to Wilf first, please?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So in 2004, I think there was a local an act of parliament that said that councils should be looking at the way local governments is done every 5 years for their area, and Havant never did one, and we never quite understood why. And apparently, the rest of Hampshire is almost all parished. Havant is one of the biggest areas that is not parished at all. So so the process is a thing called a community governance review, and it's a very legally defined process. So Havant had their hands tied in some ways. They have to go through a specific thing within a year, and it's triggered either every 5 years, which if they'd volunteered to do it, which they hadn't done, or by 7.5% of the voters of the electorate to petition for it. So when HIRA looked at it, we had a petition that was run that was successful, but we couldn't prove that all the voters were local residents. In fact, we knew we had some people from abroad, we had people all over the country who generally supported local democracy, but we couldn't prove whether they were local or not. So we started a new petition where we check every single entry against the electoral roll to prove that they're local and they're who they say they are. And we ran that through, we're using free software through Google Forms and a Google spreadsheet that is a very auditable process. So we can anyone can audit that process and show that they're genuine. And we remove things like duplicates, people who didn't exist on the voting register. And we had a lot of duplicates because people don't always remember whether they voted or not. You know, people are asked to do so many things and sign so many petitions. We had quite a lot of people who just signed up 2 or even 3 times. So we were able to eliminate them, which made it a fair process. So once we thought it was going to be 10% of the electorate. It turned out to be 7.5%. As soon as we got to that, we entered it to the council, and that started a 1-year process. By law, it has to be complete within 1 year. The council has to go back to the electorate twice, once to say, do you really think you're serious? And the second, here are more details. This is what we think it could look like for your area. Do you still want it?
And where are we? Yep, carry on.
So we've completed phase 1. Went through with a very strong majority. 88% of Hayling respondents said yes, they did want a parish council. Then the council put some more details, some more flesh on the bones, and went to a phase 2 where the turnout was hugely down, and there has been considerable evidence of malpractice and fraudulent voting, if you like, duplicate voting. So the actual the number of people who said they wanted a parish council has fallen dramatically because the turnout has fallen dramatically. So, and I personally know of only one person who said I voted before and I've changed my mind. So I suspect most people thought, well, I've been voting forever. Surely we voted in phase one for a parish council. It's just a question of dotting I's and crossing T's. But that is what we'll be discussing on Wednesday evening. And there have been big concerns about the actual process. And the council and the law is very clear that it's not a true referendum. It's not designed to be a referendum like we had for Brexit, for example. The people just have to say, I want to enter, and here's my postcode, and I'm approximately this age. So we have no way of identifying people or removing duplicates. So the process was somewhat flawed, and we weren't exactly happy with it. But that's the way the law is.
Okay. So
I was going to say, so we're waiting to hear the result will be voted on by the council on Wednesday.
So, David, Mark, did you want to come in there?
Yes, if I may.
Yeah.
Mark, stop smiling. So basically how one is formed, thank you, Wilf. It's formed under the Local Government and Public Involvement Act of 2007, where a community governance review starts, as Wilf correctly said. Council decides to undertake one because a petition has been submitted by the residents. So Hayling's review was triggered by a valid petition signed by electors. That's important because the petition doesn't create a parish council. It simply requires the council to carry out a review. Now, my opinion, the review should be evidence-led. Parliament requires councils to consult local electors and interested parties, inverted commas, before deciding whether to create a parish council which reflects the community's identity and provides effective and convenient local government. So phase one found support for exploring the idea. Yeah. Phase two asked for people about the actual proposal, including its cost, structure, and precept. Sorry, I haven't got my teeth in. The crucial question now is whether councillors will actually generally follow the evidence from phase two report, or whether the decision has effectively already been made. Now, as Wilf correctly said, it was open, let's say, for abuse. Okay.
Yes.
Now, this is where I personally got involved, and it's like, no, it should be the electors / residents of Hayling Islands who should determine this. No disrespect to our wonderful visitors, no disrespect to holidaymakers or anybody like that. That should be decided by the residents of Hayling Island. They live here, they see it day in and day out, they have to pay the precept tax, etc. Nobody else does. So the visitor won't pay that. We will. Sorry, I will, amongst all of my wonderful neighbours, etc.
Yeah. So just to help me out here, David, so did that second consultation almost get to that sort of, as a resident, you might want one, but it's going to cost you, I don't know, £20. What did it get into that kind of level of detail? Because it's one of those things, some people might say, yeah, I'd love one, and then the second you say, well, this is what it's going to cost, then people could change their minds. Is that the sort of level of detail that phase two went into?
I'm going to say one thing first before I answer that, if I may.
Of course.
Havant Borough Council did recognise the misconception in phase one, and they tried to explain the powers more clearly during phase two. Now, they did release a figure of under £50 of precept. Okay. Is that going to be enough? I think it's going to be too much, personally. But at the end of the day, yeah, people are going, now they've got a little bit more information under phase two, they're going to go, oh, I've got to rethink about this. And that's where you're going to get the duplicate submissions. I mean, I looked at it and I thought, this is open to abuse. This is this is only my personal opinion, and I don't want to cause a problem on here about it. Is
No.
to me, it should have been like when you get your voting card, you get a card from the council, government, whatever, and you've got 2 serialised numbers, and you have to input that to say who you are, what you are, and prove you're a resident. Yeah, you live at that property. You can do that vote. That's in the general elections. Why wasn't something like that in place, whether it be legally or perhaps bend the rules or make the ruling where the resident could actually vote and it was secure? This I don't understand. It was open to anybody and everybody.
Okay, I'm just going to invite Mark in at this point, David, because you said he was smiling. He's a naturally happy man, but I'm sure, Mark, you've got some thoughts on this.
I'm still smiling now. Always smile. It's important, isn't it? I think that this is where David raises important points that have to come to debate on Wednesday, and it's a taxation representation point, which we're all familiar with. Goes back some years, that one, doesn't it? And I wonder about. Of course, I'm interested in what people who visit the island and people who work on the island think, who don't live here, but that needs to be siphoned off, because ultimately we want to know what the people who are going to pay any potential precept think. So there's a lot there to take apart. First of all, whilst it's really important and that consultation needs to be noted, this is not a plebiscite. It's not a referendum. Could Havant have done a referendum? Maybe, if they'd have been super quick, but it's a really fast turnaround. They could have latched it onto the back of the May elections and really found out what people think. But they've got to get it all done in a year. I don't think they were prepared for that. I don't know how much it would have cost. It would have been a lot less than having a separate referendum, that's for sure. I'm disappointed that didn't happen, but understand that the time parameters would have been an issue. Ultimately, the problem for me is this 2007 Act, which David cited there, was naively written without looking into the crystal ball and seeing the potential manipulation that multiple VPN access could cause, and that's the problem. It's not really fit for purpose now, and I think it's going anyway. But Wilf's right when he says, ultimately the consultation parameters were followed and were met. But David's right when he says it's open to abuse. He's also, it's an outmoded act, and that's what's caused a lot of frustration amongst some residents. And I think there's something I'm sure David will mention it as well. Again, because of this tight time frame and the fact we need to get it through and get it in the papers for LGR. Another request of David's hasn't been met, which is also a shame, because I think he wanted further scrutiny. But I'll leave him to talk about that later. And again, I've got sympathy for him there as well. But it has followed the rules. It doesn't have to be a referendum. The responses are fascinating, and actually, it's more or less 50-50 whether you slightly opposed if you don't take out all the ones that were flagged as possible duplicates or suspicious, and slightly in favour if you do. So it's roughly 50-50 the phase. Overwhelmingly in phase one, it was for. And what is interesting is in Emsworth, as a case study comparison, it was 88% in favour in phase one, and it dropped massively to 87% in phase two. But we didn't see any. So it's still hugely popular in Emsworth, and that's a much easier piece of consultation for people to absorb than in Hayling, which is what makes it interesting and probably why we're on here.
Just to add a detail for people that don't know, the council was able to look at duplicate IP addresses. So if, for example, you're at home, you share a computer with your wife or your son or whatever, you would have the same IP address, and that is acceptable. So the council accepted several votes coming from that computer, if they indicated that they were different people, so different ages, for example. But they didn't look at VPN abuse. And there was at least a number of Facebook posts where people were bragging about how easy it was to set up a VPN, and you can make your own unique IP address. And as far as we know, the council has no way of detecting that. So people could have dialed in with multiple IP addresses and repeatedly voted. In fact, there's strong evidence that that did happen. And so if you exclude the probable VPN abuse, then it's a massive still in favour of a parish council. But it's not as if we're doing something that's never been done before. The whole of Hampshire, except this area, is already parish councilled, and almost none of them decide to stop. You can stop. There's a process. The CGR also has a process to say we want to stop being a parish council, which was used in Southsea. But I would suggest Southsea doesn't really have, that little parish in Southsea didn't really have a unique identity like Hayling or Emsworth have, that give them that local democracy and democratic feeling.
So I'm just going to jump back in on the process question. You've referenced Wednesday, given a very clear description that we've got a set of results. We all know that 52-48 never leads to harmony moving forward. What's happening Wednesday, and is that the go no go decision, and how will that become about?
That's the big one. That's the big debate, and it all gets decided then. I think there's something else happening on Wednesday.
Sorry, Mark. Is that a Havant Borough Council meeting? Is that what?
Yes, it is. Yeah. And there was a clash with something else, I think.
Gentlemen, can I jump in, please, with respect?
Of course you can.
With reference to Will's wonderful percentages there, can I just clarify? Those percentages are only of the people that responded.
Yeah.
They're not percentages of the residents. There's just for the people that responded. Now, also he said about VPN issues. Totally agree. Abused. So if you've got 273 people, let's say, who don't have PCs today, and there's a lot of people out there don't have access to the internet, unfortunately, they'll go along to the local library, and there's probably 2 or 3 machines in a local library if they can afford them, etc. And those wonderful people will submit their ideologies, suggestions, whatever they wish. Now, you could have 270, you could have 10 people of the same age. You could have 20 people the same age. You could have 5 people the same age. So have they disregarded those submissions where people have fallen, as Will said, I know it was just an example, within that age group? Have they sort of, no, we're not going to include them. So there's just so many flaws within it. And I could go on and probably bore you senseless. Who's that?
So I think the point you make, David, is very clear.
Sorry.
Which I think all three of you have made the point very clear, that is the data that the decision will be based on. I think, whilst you may all look at it from different angles, it sounds very clear that you all agree it's imperfect data. It was never intended as a referendum, but as it stands currently, it probably can't be used to give you a strong steer one way or another. Is that fair?
Yes, absolutely fair.
Absolutely. And I mean, no disrespect to welfare. There was a certain individual, how can we put this? Let's be polite, that was doing naughty things, right? He was pulled over the coals by other involved people, shall we say, like myself. But it turns out this one individual was not trying to show and prove how it could be done. He just kept highlighting it and highlighting it and highlighting it to make people aware. Now, not a lot of people have got posh mobile phones today. You've got a lot of, let's say, elderly people who don't know how to use. No disrespect to them. Sometimes I look at my phone and go, "What do I do now? What do I do now?" It's the people that I feel for that haven't had the chance to really understand what's going on, and if there'd been more communication from Havant Borough Council, given more information, I think things had gone a lot more better and flowed. It's just my opinion.
No, I think they're at the heart of any decision-making process is how much can you trust the data, and has everybody had their chance to have a say? I'm going to throw you across to Simon.
Okay, so just to kind of tease more out of that. One of the things I was just going to share was a comment we got back from the public with regards to parish councils. So a pretty kind of firm view of it. So this is Mandy on Facebook. Was saying many of the parish town councils across Hampshire are just groups of elderly NIMBYs who think they're important. They provide nothing to the community except another layer of paper shuffling. Many are funded through a precept in council tax. They run unused community buildings, huff and puff about dog poo, and oppose every development because they dislike change. Surely the idea of a merger is a complete nonsense. If they are going to cut posts from one council, only to add them to another. I think it's fair to say she's not in favour, but has concerns about actually how effective is it in the landscape of what the overarching kind of idea of LGR is. And sorry, excuse me as I stagger to what my actual question is, which was, so do we have any examples of actually where it's worked well, or examples of where it's not worked well? Because it seems that perception, it's fair to say there's a variance of perception. Have we got any examples of either good or bad?
Well, I can tell you that all the local ones that we've talked to appear to be working well. So Newlands Parish Council, Horndean, Rollins Castle appear to be getting local support and appear to be performing lots of good services. In terms of officers and employees, Hayling Parish Council almost certainly have one part-time employee for the first 2 or 3 years, and that be a parish clerk who has to be employed by law. They have to be qualified, and they run the finances and the governance of the parish council. And we may not have any other employees in the start if we have nothing in the short term to do. If we don't have any allotments to run. Most parish councils are talking about 3, 5. I think Horndean said they had 11, but not full time. And given that Havant has 314, I think, Mark, and I'm not sure if that it probably didn't include the outsourced services. So we're talking about something that is a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of a Havant Borough Council, and even less compared to Hampshire and the unitary that we're going to end up with. So it's a tiny amount of bureaucracy. And in terms of elderly NIMBYs, I'm afraid to say, when I was young with a job and a family and lots of other interests and doing sports, I didn't have time to get involved in councils. So I'm trying to make up for it now, but I'm certainly not looking for an easy time, or I won't get paid. If I stand, I won't get paid. It'll cost me a lot of money in practice and a lot of time.
Okay. Anyone else got anything to add? Good or bad examples that they've got elsewhere?
I'll go next because no, Mark, you wait your turn.
No.
Right. Formal order Q, please, chaps. David.
Sorry. So, I mean, some parish councils are excellent, okay, and I'll say they are. But there's other parish councils out there that are really struggling to recruit councillors or provide even a few services. Right. So there's not a universal answer. I wish there was one. Yeah, I really do. But the success of a parish council depends entirely on the local people standing for election. It's got to be good governance and realistic, in inverted commas, finances. Some communities benefit greatly. Others don't. I mean, I've got a friend who's in a parish council. He's paying £392 a year, yeah, and he can't even get hold of his parish councillors. And he's now moving house. He's just had enough. You know, they can decide the additional layer of government funding, etc. But is it worth assets I'm referring to, is it worth the additional cost? Look, let's be honest. We are in a cost of living crisis. Okay, there's a lot of people out there who are struggling from day to day, week to week. The cost of living is absolutely ludicrous. Does Hayling Island really need this with that extra layer of cost? You know, as Councillor Wilf or Councillor Mark pointed out, there's an ageing population on Hayling Island. Yeah, I'm getting older. I feel like it, I'll tell you. And do we want that extra? Sorry, do these people want this extra bit of cost? And that's the biggest thing today. Cost.
Okay. Fair enough. Mark?
You're absolutely right, David.
Oh,
but parish councils can actually earn revenue that you can't earn as a major council. So, for example, Mark has been trying to get a bus to the ferry to link up to the ferry and then the bus the other side for years. And we've never really managed it except on special community services for odd events. But parish councils can apply for grants that would have enabled that happen. We would have a bus to the ferry by now if we had a parish council. So there are other ways to earn money than just paying taxes. And I think that's as a loud and clear message. We cannot expect people to pay lots of money. Council tax isn't a fair tax. Although if you're on universal credit and pension credit, you will get council tax relief. So it won't affect those people at the bottom end, but there's a lot of people in the middle who will be affected. And I think the cost is a major, major issue that we would need to address. But as I say, there are many other ways of earning revenue and paying for services, including volunteers.
Okay. Was there more you had to come in on there on the... Oh, sorry, David, was there something else you were saying on that?
My apologies, yes. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Wilf. Totally agree with you. But where can you get this funding from? So, correct me if I'm wrong, please. So you're probably looking at the heritage funds, national lottery funds. Please continue. I can't remember the other two or three that there are, but the main source of income for a parish council will come from the precept. Okay, but Hampshire County Council charitable trusts and environmental organisations, income that will come from assets, allotments, community buildings or other facilities. But I mean, someone's going to touch on this very shortly. Community infrastructure levy, right? So the parish precept would not necessarily fund all activities, right? So they can apply for grants, as you quite rightly say. So a Hayling Island Parish Council could also receive, and I'll back you up here, the CIL, Community Infrastructure Levy, neighbourhood payments, but you'd only get 15%. No, you're wrong. With all due respect, I'll say that first, okay? That is in the... I'll come back to that. Where there's no made neighbourhood plan, which is subject to a statutory cap, the parish council will get 25%. Now, that is in governmentation documentation. And bear with me. I can't find it, and you're going to shoot me in a minute, but I will find it. So you'll only get 15%. If you've got that plan in place, you'll get the 25%. You will not get 40%. You will not get 60%. You will not get 100%. That's laid down in government legislation, and I apologise if I've offended you or others who are listening.
Well, let's just give Mark or Wilf a chance to kind of come back on that, because we don't know what and not wishing to kind of put people on the spot. Is there different information that you guys have got, or is there?
Yes, I mean, I'm happy to jump in there, Simon, because I haven't said anything on this yet. I've been very quiet and patient listening for far too long. I'm getting twitchy now. So yeah, it's not a hard and fast 15%, but I can't get real clarity. I was just trying to look online now. 25% was what Liz got. I've heard it's going to go up and it's going to be more than that, but I can't give clarity and I can't give citations. I'm not going to touch the CIL stuff for now. What I'm going to say is we'd start at £50. That is what is recommended in the report. £50, which is less than £1 a week. Anyone who thinks that £1 a week will tip them over the edge would be welcome to apply for a CTR, council tax reduction. If you're already on a council tax reduction, you don't need to worry about it anyway. So there is a backstop there. I don't accept at all that £1 or £2 a week is going to tip the balance for anyone and who will then not qualify for additional support. If they're on the breadline, so to speak, to use a crude and outmoded phrase, they will get support. If £2 a week is going to do it for them, or less than that, then they'll get support. Okay, and you've always got the option of doing another petition if they whack it up to £500 straight away in the first year and getting rid of it through the same process. So there are backstops there. So I'm not going to spend a long time debating the fact that this is going to really affect people financially who are on the edge already. £50, less than £1 a week. £100, which is the average for a parish council anywhere in the UK, less than £2 a week. At £50, you'd raise £400,000 for the island. And it doesn't even need to be that much at the moment because we wouldn't need to look after the allotments. And I think that was taken into the calculation. So £400,000 a year could do an awful lot if you get the right people. And then we're back to the previous question, the previous answer. It's all about competence and who you get in. And you started this, Simon, by talking about how there are different shapes and sizes. And yes, there are. And that's why I can't, hand on heart, say to residents, and I've been saying there are these good things, but actually with this caveat, if we get incompetent people in who make really bad decisions, then it will be unhelpful. But it could be great. And you asked for some examples, and you might want to Google them now. I don't know, Simon, Ian, but for me, Frome and Saxon Vale is a really good one. And Frome Parish Council managed to get a planning development completely redesigned. So it wasn't just a standard generic, just drop it in, thoughtless planning, bit of planning. And in council estate, it became the hub of their community. They've got a hotel in there, a cafe, a Lido, huge amount of public space. They brought the number of houses down. Loads more became affordable. It was such clever intervention by really capable parish councillors that there's more than money's worth for the people who were there. And I think they're above the average. I think they're paying over a couple of £100 a year there, but goodness me, they get their value for money. Then you look at somewhere like Shrewsbury, which has got a lot less than the average. It's about £87 a year or something like that. And they've got all sorts of things there. Parks, playing parks. They've started a town market that they get some income from. They've taken on the toilets, which is always dangerous, but they managed to make it all work because they've got some sources of income. But they own their own assets, and they've grown, and they've managed to keep the price quite low. And then Falmouth is an exceptional one. I mean, they've been ambitious. They've got their own art gallery and a nationally accredited heritage museum. There's so much that you can do. The sky is the limit, like we said before. Lots that you can choose to take on, but normally the larger it gets and the more ambitious it gets, the more you're paying, and that is where I think there will be tensions. And that my concern is there's going to be tension starting because we've got some people who've campaigned, really negative campaigners who have been really effective online. Got a lot of people scared. We see that quite a lot these days, don't we? Without knowing all the facts and spreading some false information. It's certainly not David, but some other people. And as a result, people are worried. And I think there's going to be friction and tension for whoever starts in that role. And it's not going to be the foundation that I would want if I was going to stand as a parish councillor. I'm not going to, but I think that's the first thing I have to think about.
So if I can just jump in, just in the interest of time, as you guys have been absolutely fantastic and have covered an awful lot of ground in a relatively short time. Is this not just, Andy Burnham spoke about devolution and power out of Westminster, and the whole thrust behind local government was to remove layers of bureaucracy. Is this not just, Havant becomes part of Greater Portsmouth? Sorry for the term, but it's an easy one to use. So Havant is part of Hampshire at the moment. You've got a two-tier system. Havant becomes part of Greater Portsmouth. Hayling Island has its parish council. Are you not back to two-tier administration?
I don't think you are. I mean, when I'm a junior beside Mark. Mark got me into the council.
It's Mark's fault, then, is it?
Only 2 years. It's Mark's fault, totally. It was only 2 years ago, but people didn't know and still don't know who does transport. They come to us for potholes. They come to us because motorbikes are too noisy on Hayling, which are transport issues, which we have no power at all about. But an awful lot of it is overlap. The planning side of it, a lot of enforcement, a lot of local licensing is done by Havant. And I think that's huge duplication. And if councillors struggle with where the boundaries are between them, how can ordinary residents do? So I think there will be a huge simplification by putting everything into a single place. It will be very obvious where the parish council gets involved because it's hyper-local. It really does have to be hyper-local. For start, everything is on the island. That's start and stop. So, and it'll only be things like play parks, open spaces, community centres, maybe bus stops. Apparently, if we got any left before we lose them all. So it's not a bureaucratic layer.
No,
we mustn't let it be.
I'm going to come in there if that's all right, and then David can put us all to bed in a minute. But I would agree. I think that I would agree. I think that it's not a second tier in the same sense at all. It offers the opportunity for enhancement, and it also offers a backstop, a lever in case actually this new authority makes some big mistakes. There's a force that we can get behind. Again, with the caveat, if they're any good, but we can certainly make our concerns known to them. Everything will come under that unitary authority umbrella. It's according to that OECD paper, it's going to mean that in the long term, a lot of transport links in particular will enhance the economic output, but also there'll just be much more efficiency, and it makes sense, doesn't it? Within that unitary authority, and there's a debate there as well. You mentioned Greater Portsmouth, and that was a significant debate in the last full council.
It's an item on the agenda at Portsmouth City Council's full council meeting on Tuesday, actually, to basically to levy for the name Portsmouth to be included in the title of the unitary authority.
And I argue for it as well. I think it should be called. Portsmouth Full Council, Portsmouth FC. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Excellent. They're not all going to have to wear blue shirts, though, right?
I'm keen on it.
Possibly. David, can we just bring you in there?
Yes, certainly. Thank you. I don't care what they call it, as long as they sort the roads out and the bus stops and everything, de-weed the gutters, it's fine, and do the potholes. I don't give a monkey's what they call it. Sorry, Portsmouth Council, but hey-ho. Just digressing, if I may, the Community Infrastructure Levy Regulations 2010, as amended, Regulation 59A, if I may, where a chargeable development is within a parish council area without a made neighbourhood development plan, the charging authority must pass 15% of the relevant SIL receipts to the parish council. This 15% share is capped at £100 per existing council tax dwelling in the parish, indexed for inflation. Where the parish has made a neighbourhood development plan, the charging authority must pass 25% of the relevant SIL receipts to the parish council. The 25% share is not subject to the £100 per dwelling. So in short, the legislation established a 15% neighbourhood share for parish councils by default, increasing to 25 where a neighbour plan is in place to support local infrastructure and community projects. So that's where it is. Community Infrastructure Levy Regulations 2010, Regulation 59. What was the other question, Ian, Paul, Simon, George?
It was, I realised you were doing your research in the background there, David. It was really, is this another layer of bureaucracy, or, as was touched on earlier, at the moment, Hayling Island gets 6 voices out of 36, but in the new authority, possibly only 4 out of 104. So, I can't do the percentages that quickly.
116.
But it's it's from roughly 17% of the councillors down to 4. So more bureaucracy or more representation?
My honest opinion, I don't know, and I haven't made my mind up about it because I'm more concerned about the process that's been followed. I'm more concerned. This is on a personal nature. I'm more concerned about the report that's come out that they voted no. The majority is 56% against it, and it's 41%, I believe, that's for it. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, all the councillors will respect that. That's what the people want. They're there to represent to these people, and I'm hoping they will represent that and follow that through. I did ask for it to go to overview and scrutiny committee, and I did ask certain councillors if they would call an extraordinary meeting. Unfortunately, for whatever reason it may be, that Havant Borough Council, they rejected it. I don't know why, because there are, in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, there are flaws within the process. As Mark pointed out, it's 2007 Act. It was written willy-nilly. It wasn't written for the future. It's an old Act. It needs to be updated. So I'm going to finish on saying to the councillors out there, please respect the residents. Thank you.
Well, I think, David,
can I just correct that? Can I just correct that?
Yep.
When they removed some duplicated IP addresses and some clearly fraudulent votes, it went to a majority for, and we're pretty sure they didn't remove anywhere near all of the fraudulent votes. So that is not true. That there's been a majority for against it.
Well, thank you. With all due respect to your good self, there's no evidence of that. Where's the evidence?
I think there's evidence. The report by technical experts showed that.
Yeah, so I guess, gentlemen, if we can just draw this into a conclusion, because I think we have covered the point really well, and I think you've all given very fair and balanced views that you've got a data set that you can't rely on. There's been an attempt to clean that up, but always with any cleaning up of any data set, there's the question around who did the clean up and was that entirely fair and even-handed. So in the interest of time, I just want to hand you back to Simon for our last question, which is, we hate to force people into binary positions, but Simon, it's over to you.
Yeah, just the idea of asking the public whether they like the idea of something and then going back and asking them whether they like what's proposed. I mean, that's crazy. If only someone had suggested that in 2016.
Stop it.
So, sorry, different episode. So based on what we've covered so far and what we know at this point, good or bad idea? Shall I come to you first, Mark?
And I'm so sorry to disappoint on the binary front, but good parish council is a great idea, and I don't care if there's a slight majority for or against in this particular consultation, which if you take those flagged responses out, is a majority for. It's so minute, and it is a consultation, and it's not a plebiscite. I would think, what is the best thing for Hayling? And I would go, absolutely, it's a parish council. But I can't guarantee it's going to be great, can I? Because I don't know the quality of the people that are going to be there and how competent they'll be. And I've also now got these concerns about the fact that it will be so difficult for them that it's been poisoned a bit. Emsworth will be easy. Vote that through in a heartbeat immediately. That said, one little other thing, Reform did vote against continuing after phase 1, with the exception of the Reform councillor for Hayling. They voted against it, even though 87% wanted to go forward. So if they try and pull the Democratic card on Wednesday, I'll blow them out of the water, because they've already weeded their chips there.
They didn't vote to take back control. No, sorry. Okay.
Stop it.
Will.
Stay in the moment, Simon.
Will.
Yes, well, I'm clearly in favour. I wasn't before, and when Hira asked to do the CGR petition, I did actually suggest we should do it as a referendum and try and get some idea of both sides. But because of the way the law is for a community government's review, we decided just to get enough to get that petition started, and we thought people didn't know enough about it to really make an informed judgment. So I think it's the right thing. Hayling's got a distinct identity, and we can make it work.
Brilliant.
Lovely, thank you, David.
Well, what can one say?
For or good or bad idea, or are you gonna hedge like Mark and say it depends on the quality of the people?
No, my opinion after this evening and what I've been reading for the last 4 or 5 days is no. I think it's a bad idea, personally. There's two. It's been rushed. It's flawed. I could go on and bore you senseless, but no, I think it's a bad idea.
Well, that's succinct and leaves us in the perfect position of one says good, one says bad, and one flip-flops and sits on the fence. But we would have expected that from Mark anyway. Who knows? Maybe this is 2026, and in 2036, 10 years on,
I've got an idea. Let's have an arm wrestle.
Well, but
we put it to bed.
Hard to do online, but we can try and put that in the diary. Let's see.
Perfect. Yeah, no. I'd reasonably back myself, but I don't care which way it goes. So, thank you, gentlemen, for this evening. You've been listening to the Pompey Politics Podcast. I've been Ian Tiny Morris,
and I've been Simon Sainsbury, and our guests this evening have been Councillor Mark Coates, Councillor Will Fareham, and of course, we've also, sorry, I'm pressing the wrong button there, and David Gainsford. So thank you very much all for taking part in this important conversation about parish councils, pro or for, pro or against. If you liked what we've covered in this episode, please do remember, give us a comment, give us a subscribe, give us a like, give us a follow. I mean, Christ, send money for tea and biscuits if you want. We're not going to object. So please do that. If you'd like to watch our next episode, we'll be commenting, we're reacting to the leaders' questions at PMQs on Wednesday evening. Unless people have got something else to do on Wednesday evening. I think there's some other.
We'll be done by 8, Simon.
Yeah.
Trust me. We'll be done
by
by 8.
We'll definitely be done by 8. So join us then for that, and then next Sunday's show, our last episode before we go into the summer break. We'll be looking at Portsmouth full council meeting. That takes place on Tuesday the 14th. So do remember, join us then. Thanks very much, and we'll see you then. Don't forget to like, follow, and comment on Facebook, or comment and subscribe on YouTube. Find us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, X, YouTube, Threads, LinkedIn.